So here I am today with the very phenomenal Andrew Harvey, who is a man, one of the biggest hearts I've ever met. He's a Rumi mystic, a scholar, a poet, a teacher, and a man on a heartfelt, soul-driven mission to awaken and inspire all of us to live our most deeply embodied truth in a way not just for our own satisfaction but in service to the world. And so I am deeply honoured.
I'm honoured. We've had the most wonderful days staying in your house, sitting on your balcony looking at the sea, talking about everything. It's been really wonderful, a true soul exchange. So I'm so thrilled that this is the first of your series that you're going to do. Tell us about your series.
Indeed. So this, as you know, came about because our very dear, beautiful friend, mutual friend, Bronwyn, one beautiful day on the beach, it came to me to have intimate conversations with great mystics, wise teachers and everyday lovers.
Great mystics, wise teachers and everyday lovers. What a great title. Fabulous.
And I didn't know what to do with it. I just knew that it needed to happen. And so I asked for more information, as you do.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And this beautiful list of names of great mystics, wise teachers and everyday lovers just flowed through me, and the name on the top of that list was Andrew Harvey.
Thank you.
Was the first name that came. And,
thank you.
and just at that moment, this friend of ours
I know.
called and said, "How are you? What are you doing?" And I told her what had come through me, and at that point I knew that she had a connection with you, but I didn't know...
Oh, she's a beloved friend.
Yeah.
She's a great friend of Caroline Mace.
Exactly.
Who is my soul sister, and so Bronnie is very much in my heart family.
And I didn't know that, and I said, this has just come through me, I don't even know what to do with it, but I've got to have intimate conversations with great mystics, wise teachers and everyday lovers.
And let me tell you, they're dying to have intimate conversations, because so often we don't get to exchange heart to heart. People ask us questions, but there's not this tender intimacy, which is really where everything gets communicated.
Exactly.
Everything is heart to heart, eyeball to eyeball.
Belly to belly.
Belly to belly, yes. Belly to belly, yes.
And so Bronwyn said, well, I have to hook you up with Andrew Harvey. And of course I went, oh, but I'm not ready. I don't even know what it's going to be yet. And I said, I have to have a plan. And she said, oh, no, you don't.
No.
You just need to speak with Andrew. And that was in November last year. And what I didn't realise was that I would soon then be called to look at your schedule and notice that you were coming to Australia but not to Adelaide. And when I saw that, I thought, I have to bring Andrew and his work.
It's been such an amazing experience, because we've had 2 days here, and the quality of the people who came was so inspiring to me. I was able to teach yesterday in a way I don't think I've taught ever. We had this day on the Divine Feminine. First part was the light feminine, the Mary feminine, and then, my God, we plunged into the dark feminine.
Madonna.
But I could do what I could do because of the quality of this heartfelt clarity that was in the room.
They were so wide open.
So wide open.
And that's, I think, what really allowed the depth to be revealed, because they were, like we were saying yesterday, they were very open and malleable, and that depth.
Malleable, yes, but they weren't pushable or roundable.
No.
These are
they
serious
were ready,
practitioners who really know that we're in a hell of a danger, but also are willing to do the sacred work to stay connected, and absolutely up to the adventure of sacred activism. I felt, goodness gracious, what's happening in Adelaide? I came to Adelaide about 4 years ago because I was invited to give the Temenos lectures, And everybody said, you're going to be bored to death in Adelaide. Adelaide is the steadiest place in the world. And I came and I fell in love with Adelaide because it has a calm and it has a peace here. And the old atmosphere of spirituality from the land, but also from the churches, the great...
Yes.
Adelaide is the city of the churches. And I felt this serenity here. And staying here in this beautiful small flat overlooking the sea and walking on that incredible beach. Australia is such an overwhelming experience for me every time I come because the immense beauty here. And I want to shake all my Australian friends and say, my God, you must preserve this. This is one of the last pure oases on the planet. Don't sell everything to the Chinese. Don't sell out to the Americans. Don't sell out to the glitzy, destructive capitalist way of life. Realize that you have the greatest Aboriginal culture in the world here, the most powerful indigenous culture. Do everything to heal the wounds of the genocide that's happened and create a new world here, create a new society here, because you have amazing people with absolute, pure, wild, heartfelt energy. You've got this extraordinary mix in Australia between the American energy and the English down-home, ironic, no-nonsense, in-your-face quality, which I love. I love that mix in the Australians, and that's why I come back again and again.
Do you know, you've been speaking about being with these very wise, amazing Indigenous elders.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And I really feel that for a lot of white Australians, it's a challenge because if we allow ourselves to really feel the agony of what we've done as a collective, if we really allow ourselves to feel that, unless we have the internal galvanized structuring and the openness of heart and some kind of innate wisdom that would allow us to feel that without being really frozen by it. Do you know what I mean? I think
this is a genocide. Something like 450,000 of the 500,000 Indigenous people who were here when the British, I'm afraid, came, have been destroyed. And the culture has been so ravaged by rejection and by being torn from the land, which is like taking a plant out of the earth. But what I've discovered, and I know this is something you know, there are these extraordinary elders who have gone beyond hatred, gone beyond any desire to humiliate the whites, and are just so passionate to share the glory of what they know. I've had the honor of making 2 films now with Uncle Bob Randall, and Uncle Bob Randall is in his 80s, and you just have to look into the eyes of that man to know that he is pure love. And I've just met one of the most incredible of the elders, Grandmother Jenny. I'm still reeling from Grandmother Jenny. Do not mess with Grandmother Jenny, you'll end up in a cement kimono somewhere. But she is so fiery and so tender. And you know that she knows the full score of what's happened. She knows that her people are still devastated. She knows that there are appalling conditions. But she is on fire to give. So I would say to my Australian friends, please, please, don't let your pain at what's happened stop you from going and sitting at the feet of these people, because they're so willing to share and they're so down home. What I love about the elders, what actually constantly moves me to tears when I'm in their presence, is how unbelievably down home they are. They don't want to be worshipped. They don't claim to be anything. They're not on a guru trip. They're absolutely naked about who they are, and all they want is what's happening between us now. They want to have intimate communion with people. That's how they teach. That's how the elders teach. They teach in intimate settings with this amazing power of intimacy, and what they have to communicate is crucial for the future of the planet. I sat with Bob in his land outside Uluru, and I sat on a crate, gazing up at him sitting on a tree, and we just poured out our hearts to each other, and he poured out to me his vision, the vision of his world, Kanyini, this vision of living in sacred interdependence with everything. And we were on his land, and I could feel that he was completely in communion with every twig, with every grain of sand, with the air. And fortunately it's on film, but it was such a blessing to me.
Tell me the name of the...
It's called Living Kanyini.
Okay.
And Kanyini is the name.
And this is available now. So
yes,
okay.
It's available all over from my site, Sacred Fire. I'm starting up this tremendous wild adventure with my great buddy Jeremy Ball, my brother, and we're hoping to create something for Australia that can really inspire Australians, but also the world, but especially Australians, to go deep into what's so obviously, brilliantly, vividly here, the enormous power of the land and the still vibrant Aboriginal transmission of interdependence, of living in community, living with sacred law, living in intimate relationship with everything that is. My God, don't waste this. And we're going to have a Sacred Fire Festival in October, in which, for the first time ever, we're going to sit at the feast, of the elders. We're going to have, Bob is going to teach for a whole afternoon alone, nobody else, no sound bites, just this amazing elder. And we're going to be seated there like we would be in the ancient world. He'll be on a chair, the rest of us will be sitting. And then Grandmother Jenny is going to have the whole evening. And then we're going to have some talks by people who've bridged it. Barbara Randall, Bob's American wife, who is an absolutely astonishing woman.
Wow.
Her love for her husband, her love for the culture that she's come into, her extraordinary humility before that culture are constant inspirations for me, and she's a brilliant speaker.
Wow.
And then I'm going to speak about how my 10-year journey into Indigenous Wisdom has completely changed me. Because I was brought up in a grand high culture, Hinduism, and of course Christianity. My parents were Christian, I was born in India. And for many, many years, I labored unconsciously under a prejudice that the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Taoists and the Christian mystics and the Sufis, they had got it. And the indigenous tradition was wonderful, but, belonged to a lower level of evolution. God, was I wrong?
So what changed? So what was it? What was the moment? Or what was the... when you awakened to something, right? What awakened you to the revelation of what is so deeply available in Indigenous wisdom? Because I think that when we feel that and taste it,
oh my God,
like you're talking sacred fire.
Yes,
it is.
That
sacred.
is the sacred
that is
fire.
The sacred fire.
Yes, because it comes out of the heart of nature. In many indigenous traditions, they talk of two suns: the sun that's in the sky that gives us the great glow of life, and then the sun at the core of the earth, this fire at the heart of matter which permeates everything and lives as the vibrant, juicy Shakti in everything. And it's linking those two suns, the transcendent sun and the sun in matter, that really helps embody the divine human. That's what I'm coming slowly to really grasp. And how I experienced that for the first time, that's a wonderful question. And I'll tell you the truth. I think everything started to change when I had my first cat. My husband, Eric, told me, look, we must have an animal. You're going on and on talking about the destruction of nature. We must love an animal. And this house must become a shrine to an animal. We must worship the mother in animals.
Wow.
And I resisted it because I was traveling so much.
Right.
And then we went to the pound and got the most incredible cat that has ever lived on the face of the earth, called Perpetual. Well, I wanted to call her Isis.
I've read about Perpetual.
Perpetual was the great can opener of my heart. I didn't know that I could feel so much love. And she and I had a beloved relationship. We'd spend hours gazing into each other's eyes. When I came back from teaching, trying to raise the dead in Idaho or wherever, Lord, I would lie on the bed completely exhausted, and she would come and lie on my heart center, and I would feel this massive healing power coming from her. And this totally deranged me.
Right.
And changed my vision of what nature is, of what animals are. And I think that when she died, and she was only with us for 2 years, and when she died I went into a terrible depression because I realized that I'd experienced through her a love of such purity and such intensity that I felt at that moment that it would never come again. But she came back in visions, and she came back in messages, and what she said to me is that I started a journey for you, a journey into the heart of nature. You must go deeper, and you must become a voice for animals, the voiceless. And that was the beginning, that shattering open of the heart at the beauty of the love of an animal. And that was my entry point. She opened the door. And then I went to the Amazon with a very close friend of mine who said, Andrew, you have got to come to meet the Achua. You have got to see what people live like without any kind of mask, naked with nature. They're a Stone Age people, and they live in the middle of the Ecuadorian Amazon. I went, and it was an absolute astonishment to me to see completely calm, completely integrated, loving, embodied, radiant, undistracted people. Yeah. And then to participate in their life, to be with them in the morning and in the evening, and to see how everything unfolded in this timeless, grounded presence. And they were clearly, for everything that was going on around them, because they're living in a very endangered forest and know that their life is endangered and terrible things have happened since I went, but to see that primordial joy simply existing as itself in them, that woke me up to what Indigenous wisdom has against immense odds preserved the way to live in joy, in union with the whole of nature. And then I took ayahuasca, with an Amazonian shaman of 85. He rocked my world because he was so humble and so obviously wise, but so unobtrusive. He made the ayahuasca for us. We lay on palm leaves, and then when it was starting really to work, I was taken by David, my friend, and another friend, because I couldn't walk, into this hut where he was sitting with the flames flickering around him, and he just gazed at me, and I seemed to be gazing into the eyes of every shaman in every time, in every indigenous world, and the love that poured from him. He took some leaves and he brushed me, and he sang to me. This great, holy, wise, sweet man just sang. This grandfather of the world just sang, and something forever changed. And the experience of ayahuasca is such an overwhelming experience, and I had a very wonderful experience of the Divine Mother through it, who really said, one of the reasons why you're in such despair sometimes, Andrew, is because secretly you believe that the human race can destroy me. Nothing will destroy me. Relax, baby. I'm here forever. You can just rest in me. But that seemed to me also like a message from the heart of the indigenous world, that we must learn to trust her absolutely, because only she can take us forward now.
And I think, we've been talking a lot about the Black Madonna and the Dark Goddess.
Yes.
And I think that all of us, as we journey through, whether we call them hard times or absolutely devastating dark nights of the soul, I know in my own life and my own dark nights that I've been through, the only way to journey through them and come out in a way where you are shattered open,
yes,
rather than shattered closed.
right.
Right?
And you can do both, the dark night.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Is that, I think even if you just, for me, if you just get a glimpse
of her love,
just even for a moment, when you're writhing in agony, when you just get a glimpse of that she is holding you.
Yes.
Right?
And she's suffering it within you. That's the great revelation, is that although she knows she has to put you through this because you have to die into life to become your fullest and most blazing being.
Yeah.
And she knows that, and she will do it in an absolutely precise, ruthless way, but she will also live your pain within you. She will suffer with you. And that's it's totally deranging to the mind, but when you discover that, then you can trust the fathomless, mysterious, dark love that is simultaneously crucifying you and resurrecting you, and you can dive into it and dive back into it and let her do it, because you're in the hands of the great creatrix, the one who knows everything, the one who knows far more than you will ever even begin to know.
And isn't that, I think, for me, I know that when I'm working with clients or speaking with beloved friends, when we're in the dark, it's so easy to feel that we're alone.
Yes.
Because we can't see and the mind can't
grasp.
So through the senses of the eyes, we get the message to the brain, to the mind, I'm here alone.
Right.
And yet you have to widen to be able to really, with beyond sensory perception, beyond mind perception, trust that innate knowing that even though you can't see her, you are not alone.
Well, in a way, you're closer to her than ever.
Absolutely.
Because the dark night is the fiercest mercy. It's the
ultimate
form of love, actually, to be torn apart by her. Tell us that story you told me in the balcony at 2 o'clock in the morning. Your dream of the Black Madonna. That was such an extraordinary dream. It's a really holy, holy experience you have.
So, in this dream, my family have a boat. It's a very large cruiser. It's a 60-foot beautifully luxurious boat called Serenity.
I love that.
Called Serenity.
Serenity.
So I was on Serenity, and I looked out this window here, and I saw this exquisite dolphin sort of come up to me, and I sort of, put my face down to just, touch. It was sweet, light, ecstatic communion with this beautiful dolphin. And then the dolphin dove under, and I faced this way, and I walked out, and there was my son, who you know and love.
Oh, yes.
And who knows and loves you.
Well, I'm going to adopt him if he gets tired of your family. Alex is such a gem. Oh, I love him.
He's a beautiful, beautiful young man.
Gives me hope. Oh.
So there was Alex, and we call it the Marlin board, So it's actually what I'm just realizing now, which I didn't share at 2 o'clock the other morning, was it's on the edge of the boat, because you have so you have the little gateway, the back of the boat where the little door that swings open. Then you have the Marlin board, which is the very edge of the boat. So there's no safety. There's no safety net around you. It was just him and this ocean behind, and then up rose this creature from the deep, and I can see her, and she's almost inexplicable. It was, if you can imagine, some combination of hippopotamus with jagged teeth and what are they called? Killer whales? Orcas, right? So the black, just this fierceness rose out of this sea, and Alex is standing facing me on the edge of the marlin board, and then I hear my mum, who's kind of just behind me, saying to me, Lisa, it's not safe for him to be there, that creature, you know. And I just remember feeling this, yes, she is lethal, she is deadly, and I trust her implicitly. And my son, as you know,
you trusted her
with the most precious thing.
Yes.
With my son.
Yes.
And I just knew that it was being belly to belly with this unknowable, lethally loving mystery, embodied in a form that I couldn't even know. I couldn't even say, oh, it's a this. That there was everything. Yeah. About her was completely unknowable.
Yeah.
And true and real and embodied and arising out of the deep.
Right.
And totally trustable is not even a word.
You were in a state of adoration. She
absolute
just seized your heart. Yes.
Seized my heart, and recognition.
Yes.
There was this recognition.
And relief, I always find, because we all know that life has an absolutely terrifying aspect. There's death, there's chaos, there's horror. And in our religious systems, we've cut them off from the divine, while all of those things are inherent parts of the completely crazy, unknowable alchemy of God. And when you were brought by grace to actually face that lethal love, that furious, terrible truth, that
in one of the darkest times of my life, because let's put this in context.
Yes.
This was in a period of my life, and I've been through some dark times, and this had swept me up in a blanket of fiery transformation that I was not expecting. And so there she arose.
A blanket of fiery transformation. That is such a beautiful phrase, because it conveys both the protection and the suffering.
Yes, yeah.
And that was my experience of the dark night too.
Mm.
And then you wrote those extraordinary poems that came out of that experience. So you really got her both in her unknowable monstrousness, but also in this unspeakably clear transmission of absolutely relentless truth that she is. And I've never read poems to the Black Madonna as authentic as the ones you wrote, and I told you so, and it was so moving for me to hear what you wrote, because when you really experience her, you can run away, and I think she allows for that. But when you plunge in, you learn things that in the end totally exhilarate you. because you know you're in the hands of the power of the truth, who will not let you go until you become embodied truth yourself. And she will continue. Once she's chosen you, she obviously chose you in that vision, she will take you and she will do whatever is necessary to you to get you aligned with your deepest truth. And you'll scream and you'll shout and you'll rebel and you don't want any of it. But when finally she shows you in her mirror what you now look like and what you now are, you'll just fall on your knees with rapture and gratitude that a love so fierce could change you. Took you in hand. And you're experiencing that now, aren't you?
Well, it's like in the poem, isn't it? When you are burned, save ash.
Yes.
She whoops and hollers her incantations of old and dances wildly on your ashes.
That's it. And she dances wildly out of joy.
Yeah.
Because you have burnt away to become the bigger you, the spacious you, the free you, the liberated you. Only she can do that last part of the great transformation. Only the dark mother can birth the divine human, because the light mother, you have to experience the infinite unconditional light of the light mother.
Yes.
The light side of the mother, the Mary side. Then that prepares you, because you understand beyond words that the mother is unconditional tenderness and love. That prepares you for when Mary turns into the Black Madonna, or the Lakshmi mother turns into the Kali mother. And then she can really do what necessary. She can burn you away from you, chop your head off and grow you a new head.
Do you know what I realised yesterday?
And we know that this is actually the most thrilling thing in life. This is the most exciting transformation.
Well, I think we forget, don't we, that
Yes.
with every in-breath, we are inspiring, we are breathing in, we are being reborn, and with every out-breath,
we're dying.
We are expiring, we are dying. You know, I say the women and the couples that I work with, I say to them, never assume, when you look at your beloved, never ever assume to know them, because they have just breathed out and they are anew. Every time you gaze in your beloved's eyes.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
You don't see them unless you actually recognize that they are anew with every in-breath. And I remember having a conversation with my beloved as we were journeying through my dark night, his dark night. I remember saying to him, do not assume to know me. Because with every breath, I am reborn, as are you. And there are these assumptions.
The story, the biography, the tangle that we keep in our brains. That's what living with her gives you, I think, is that sense of the perpetual freshness of reality. It's always being reborn. The Sufi mystics say that reality is born at every second, afresh from the source. And it's not only looking into the eyes of your human beloved with that total spaciousness, it's really looking into the eyes of the beloved himself, herself. If you can stay in child mind, if you can stay in adoring, open spaciousness, welcoming reality, reality will show you such holy magic every single day and moment. Yes. Yeah. That's what Ramana Maharshi is clearly gazing out at. It's the presence of love's infinite creativity as everything, changing every moment from a changeless source.
And yet if you come back to the indigenous, what I recognize is that, you know, as you're describing the indigenous people you met in the Amazon, and all the way you described it, you know, I said, were they undistracted? Because it felt like that.
Absolutely.
Right? And yet it is so easy to be distracted in this world we live in.
Yes.
There's incessant distraction from the mind.
Well, it's been created to keep us distracted. Distracted from distraction by distraction, T.S. Eliot says. And it's astounding when you come out of, say, the Amazon, and you've lived with people who are living in spacious, timeless union. And they're quite normally, this is not grand stuff, it's normal stuff. And you come to our world and you realize we've created a completely insane world in which people are kept constantly on the go, so never get to sink deep into what already is here. Exactly. She's here already. Everything is holy. You only need to truly work on clearing the false self and its endless obsessions and addictions to come into, through grace, this wow, it's amazing what's been given us, and so tragic that we're doing what we're doing when we've been given what we've been given, original blessing right here, right now.
And that, tell me for you, because I think for a lot of us, I know I have my practices that I know open me wider, bring me deeper. And we are very blessed. We have two very, very special friends, Kadon and Sabrina.
Yes.
Who I've
working
spoken with you about.
David Dada.
Yeah, who've worked for many years
with
the impeccable teacher David Dada, and his very also.
I love his wild work. I am so happy that somebody had the guts to do that tantric work at the level that he did it. Does it.
And so I know that for me, one of the gifts Kadon and Sabrina gave Mo and I was to stay in the deep waters. To stay in the deep waters. And I think that whether we're in pain, we kind of come up to what I feel is the torment of the mind.
Yes.
And there's a difference between feeling the agony of life, because despite what the New Age will tell us, it isn't all about, as you say, bliss bunnies and bliss bombs and experience ecstatic ecstasy in every given moment. There
Get me started.
There cannot be the ecstasy without the agony.
No.
And when we stay in those deep waters, when we live wide and deep, in the mundane and in the exuberant...
There's no difference.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all transcendent and immanent. The reality is glorious in every moment.
So let me ask you, I know for me I'm very clear on what brings me, what remembers and reminds and realigns me into the deep waters, wide and deep. For you, what is it? What brings you, when you do get distracted, because we're all human,
absolutely.
What brings you, what do you know innately realigns you? We've talked a lot about recalibration. What is it for you?
What a beautiful question. What I'm experiencing as I evolve is that it becomes more and more unbearable not to be in alignment. Because I think as you evolve, you become more and more aware of the very subtle things your mind or your emotions do to take you away from the deep radiance of your authentic nature, the love power of your authentic nature. And as it becomes more and more unbearable for me to be not in my truth, I do anything to get back to it, because it feels such a betrayal of everything that I have experienced of the beloved through the grace of the beloved, and such a betrayal of the enormous graces I've received from my teachers, such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Father Pete Griffiths, and others who have been so generous to me to help me get out of Andrew Harvey and start living a much more authentic life. So there are many things I do. I think the real technology of alignment for me is breathtakingly simple.
Yeah.
Just to say a mantra. I love the Sufi mantra, La ilaha illallah. And when I'm very unaligned, I just walk up and down.
Say that again.
La ilaha illallah. There is no other God but God. La ilaha illallah.
Wow.
And that was Rumi's mantra, and I feel what's good enough for Rumi is good enough for me. And I just walk for about 10 minutes outside my log cabin in Arkansas, and I say, I am not going to fall prey to this anguish or this despair or this outrage at what somebody's done or this betrayal. It's beneath the person that I've been taught by God and by my beloveds that I am.
Yeah.
And I ask God to simply put me back home. And it always happens.
Yeah.
You just have to turn up in the sacred relationship, however you understand it. Ask for help, and you'll be aligned immediately. And it can happen in very extreme circumstances, I've discovered, because, and everybody discovers this, it turns out. I was in South Africa about 4 years ago now, and my gallbladder exploded in the middle of the bush, and I was taken to a clinic in the middle of nowhere. But to get there, there were 2.5 hours of wild pain and wild rap from the guy on crack who was driving the cab. So I always thought that I would die to Maria Callas or Bach. That was my plan. And I thought, no, my God, I'm going to die to rap, which would be horrible, although... As Alex knows,
but not anymore.
I love Eminem. Yes, as long as it's Eminem, and I don't mind.
That's right.
But what I said to the divine, I said, I'm dying. I knew I was dying. I said, I don't want to die distracted. And immediately, please don't let me die distracted. And I went to my mantra, and suddenly this great peace. And suddenly I knew Andrew may be dying, but whoever is living in Andrew is not dying. So no sweat, no worry. And I gave up. And it was such an extraordinary healing, because I truly knew that I, like you, like every human being, is deathless. There's no... Death is not final reality. It's a door into another reality. And it came because of years of practice, but because of trust. Yes. And it's available to every human being, that peace, if we trust deeply. Don't you think?
I agree. I mean, I've had moments... I shared a moment with you in my life where on the balcony again.
The balcony.
The balcony, the sacred
There's
balcony.
There's something wonderful about this balcony.
Enveloped in the dark till 2 in the morning. For me, I know...
Enveloped in the dark.
Yeah.
The black Madonna, that tender intimacy that happens with
that conversation couldn't have happened in the daytime.
No, no. The night is an enchantress.
I know for me what brings me to my knees, really, of open-hearted surrender to what is. And for me it's allowing my call to the beloved.
That's it.
And so if I look at the experiences that have been...
That's such a beautiful phrase, allowing the call to the beloved. It's almost as if you have to really know that the most essential thing in you is the longing for union with reality, and that anything that takes you away from that is actually betraying you.
It's allowing the call.
Allowing
the call to the beloved. And actually, I've only just realised it in this moment, but the moments where that call needed to be most, or the moments where I felt I would die, the moments where I felt I was writhing in agony, were the moments that I feel gave me an opportunity to allow that call. And I'm sure there have been plenty of moments where
what you're saying is so profound, because that's how she works. She plunges you into the dark fire, and you think, oh my God, this is the end of the world, this is the end of my life, everything is burning.
Yeah.
And at that moment, you fetch up from a place you didn't even know you had inside you, that longing to be beyond the craziness. And with that fetching up, the peace comes in the middle of the fire.
Absolutely.
There's an Zen story, which I absolutely love, which is suddenly coming back. A disciple goes to a master. He says, how do I escape the terrible flames of this furnace? And the master says, sit down in the middle of it.
Yes.
That will help you and protect you, because there no flames will harass you. And the whole of the New Age is about escaping the flames, saying that they don't exist, pretending that if you say they exist, they're going to get hotter. All this is garbage. The great mystical systems tell us the truth, which is that we always have the divine peace within us. And when things get really terrible is actually when the greatest opportunity to experience this peace is given us, because then we really need to, like a drowning man needs oxygen, and then we really, really cut away everything that separates us from the beloved. And that's what the beloved knows,
it is like air, and so therefore we allow it.
That's it. We need it desperately to get through the next moment. And when you've gone through those periods, you look back at them with such gratitude.
Yeah.
Because everything was taken away except the cry of longing.
Yeah.
And then the miracle of the presence could be revealed to you at a depth that no other experience could ever have given you.
And I really feel that when we do have that allowance, it frees us.
Yes.
And it frees those around us.
Well, it releases us from fear.
Yeah.
Because you know that's going to be there whatever happens to you.
Yes.
Once you've tasted that depth, you know that you have nothing to be afraid of, even death itself, especially death itself. And of course it frees up everybody, because if you are in a state of love, naturally, people are going to have fun around you, people are going to be joyful around you, and you're going to have wonderful relationships. And not just with people. Look what happened yesterday.
Oh yes, we have to share that.
This is so amazing.
Okay. This is to me, part of yesterday was just the most exquisite example of the dance.
Completely.
Wasn't it?
Well, yes. Literally.
Go and tell the story. Go and tell the story.
Well, you and I talked about how we should do the day, and I said what I really want to do is to take people into the depths of this huge global dark night that the Black Madonna is imposing on humanity and is living within humanity, to get humanity to wake up and start acting on every level. And I said, I'm not going to do it full on, which of course I love to do, but I was going to be a good boy today, but I want to take people gradually through the love of Mary into that. And as we were talking, we were looking at the sky, and it was
as we were driving
along, and we saw this incredible sky, very mottled and somehow menacing, as if the storms of the Dark One were coming. And then we came to this moment in the traffic where there was only light in the sky, but this cloud, obviously, directly, definitely in the shape of a huge dancing woman with her legs splayed. Dakini dancing across the sky, and we both and black.
All the other clouds were silvery, and the hint of the hint of grey, but she was black.
And she was
the only black cloud in the sky.
Absolutely.
And not only did she just dance, but as we were driving toward her, she danced
across
the sky.
Right. And then we unfolded the day, and before I was talking about the Black Madonna, we talked about the Virgin of Guadalupe, because of course she is a Black Madonna, and she's had a huge role in my life, and I continue to worship her and love her in that appearance. And then I was determined that we would have an evening with Alex before I left, because of course I've fallen totally in love with this amazing young man that's your son, who's so open and so much the new kind of masculine that is so loving to all beings. He's just an extraordinary person.
And yet strong.
Strong
and loving.
Loves footy, and I mean he's just he's a totally normal but totally illumined kid. It's such a great thing for me to meet him now. He loves Italian food, so Uncle Andy decided we should have Italian food. So we went to get the takeaway.
Yeah.
And when we were there, the person handing us the takeaway, the waiter handing us the takeaway, had the Virgin of Guadalupe tattooed on his rather wonderful forearm.
Phenomenal?
And both of us just looked at each other, because we'd been talking about how when you're in alignment through grace with her, she sends you all kinds of messages. Yes. And there she was, sending us this confirmation that, yes, we had been in the right truth. We'd been in the stream of reality. And then when we came back from the class, it was more than the class, it was this huge feast of sharing.
It was we need to actually share, the title of it was The Revolution of the Divine Feminine and the Way of Passionate Enlightenment.
And there she was showing everything. And when we came back, do you remember?
Yeah.
There was this amazing sunset, and the path of golden light came straight to the balcony.
And haven't I said to you, every day I have sunset photos. I couldn't even tell you, hundreds of them since we've been living here.
And
I have never, ever seen a pathway that led directly from my balcony to the horizon that was that implicitly, deeply, richly. That was a gold colour that I have never
seen it.
Ever seen
it's
before.
The gold, and remember we were speaking about the gold light that the mother uses to transmute the human into the divine human, and there was that gold light. It was the gold light of the alchemy of the divine mother, and it was a pathway of gold leading into the sun. That's happened to me only once before, and it was at the end of my the end of the book that I call Heart Yoga, that I wrote with Karuna Erickson, who's an extraordinary yogini, and we married the ancient asanas in sequences to the light mysticism of the Hindu Shaivite mother tradition, Shakti tradition, and other practices. And at the end of the writing of the book, when we finished literally the last word, the sun broke over the lake below us and the path of light opened up. And what's extraordinary about that is that in the ancient Vedas, they talk of the Mahaspata, the great path. And the great path is the birthing of the divine human through the marriage of the two mothers, the light mother and the dark mother. The two mothers have to come together. The light mother has to give you your fundamental trust in the light. Yes. And then the dark mother has to take you and shake you and break you and embody you, ground you in this flaming reality. And then they have to come together, and then the divine human is born. And so at the end of yesterday, to have the Mars Patag being shown to us so playfully and so exquisitely by her was really a very humbling confirmation of the truth of everything that we'd shared together, everything we'd shared on the balcony about her, and everything that we'd shared in the day of this great revolution that she's offering us. And she's offering it to every human being. She is pouring down the most extraordinary grace at this moment, because she knows how close we are to suicide and matricide, and how terribly endangered we are by our own madness. But the love of the mother is closer to the crazy than to the sane. She knows, and she's trying to reach us so intensely. And many people all over the world are having the most extraordinary experiences of her. Yeah. Of Mary, of all the different aspects of the Divine Mother.
Do you know what really struck me about that golden path was how, as the sun sank lower and lower. First it was a very, very direct, and as the sun sank down, it became wider and wider until the whole sea was that same. I couldn't believe that the whole sea could be that thick, rich,
carpet,
orange, golden carpet.
Absolutely. The path
so
became
wide,
a whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen if we can only stop ourselves from committing suicide at this moment. What could happen, and this is what all of my work is devoted to, because I know it in myself and you know it in yourself, what could happen is that there could be a new kind of human being here. A human being who is absolutely grounded in the transcendent and grounded in her, and loving in reality as her manifestation, and working to embody it in justice and compassion.
And I think that's the key, you know, as we've talked about my work, both with women and with couples, with everything I do, because I naturally, it's very easy for me to spend years meditating, and so you know, I've had to really
know how to get out.
Yeah, that's easy.
Right.
So for me, the work has been being embodied as her. Right. And for me, I really feel for this time on the planet, and for us as human beings.
It's all embodiment now.
It is embodiment. We've spent eons
and look where it's got us.
fooling ourselves into thinking
that we're superior and transcendence is the only possibility.
That's right. And now it's embodiment, and it is the only way, not for our own survival, and I don't just mean survival like flesh and bone survival, but
the survival of our real opportunity, of our real self,
and for the survival of the same reality that is being expressed in the form of the world.
But it isn't an abandonment of transcendence, because you need
to
know that you're one with the light, and then you need to go on the path of descent and marry what you know from your transcendent origin with your mind, with your heart, with your body. And that's where she is indispensable, because she is that embodying, birthing force in the universe, emanated from the transcendent. She's the light of the diamond of the transcendent. They're not two.
That's right.
But you need her, that birthing, powerful, wild, compassionate, passionate force, because only she can really help you do this very difficult work, because it is difficult coming in, especially if you've been out there and know how incredible it is to be free and to be deathless and to be ecstatic. But that's a kind of temptation, and unfortunately the New Age has fallen for it. Not that they're in transcendence, they couldn't tell transcendence from a hole in the head, they're in some kind of fake fringe of bliss. But when you overcome that last temptation to go out and hear her call to come in, to be a tiny, tiny drop of her vast ocean of presence, so that you can be her instrument of loving action in the world. When you hear that call and begin to do the work out of love, what she gives you is so much. She gives you so much joy and so much passion and so much energy. And so much gratitude. Because one of the things that you discover on the path to the mother, which totally blows your brains out, is how humbly grateful the mother of the universe is when a human being truly decides to love her completely. And however flawed and we're all flawed and ragged and crazy people, but she doesn't care. She made us that way. You don't care when Alex is crazy. You wish she wasn't, but
isn't
you still
it? We're
love
diamonds,
her.
and we call them flaws, but actually, to me, they're the unique
rasa.
Yeah, it's this. That's the light. The light shines through each of us.
The crack through which the light
that's
shines
right.
through. That wonderful. Yes, absolutely.
You know, and that's where I think people, were afraid so often.
Yes.
to be here now as the unique expression.
That's it.
Of the light, of the dark, which is the same.
Yes.
That's what we're afraid of, because externally,
it's so raw.
We're told,
yes,
you've got to be in this box, and you've got to be like this, and
you've got to be perfect, and you've got to be in white robes, and you've got to speak very quietly, and your eyes have always got to be filled. This is all.
But we're
the costume party.
Yeah. So when you say the diamond, to me, I see the exquisiteness of every single unique human being. That is, the light shines through us in those ways because
of the cracks,
of what we've brought in with us in this lifetime,
right,
because of what we've experienced in this lifetime. And we think that they're traumas and tragedies, but they're all just
manure for the rose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things, as you're speaking, that really comes blindingly clear to me is that this is what makes the Aboriginal elders so unbelievable.
Yes.
And such an extraordinary experience, because there is not one whiff of fake holiness around them. They are utterly raw, utterly themselves. They pick their nose, they scratch their head, they laugh, they are totally hilarious and human, absolutely human, so much more human than the gurus and the pandits in their fancy clothes.
They haven't been refined into this model of somethingness.
Well, they're not acting holy. They are naturally holy because they're whole. His Holiness is like that. The Dalai Lama is like that.
Yeah.
But he's one of the very few of the kind of system of, now we must be like this. It's such a catastrophe, I think. It's such a limitation of intimacy and of reality and realism.
Well, isn't it that... actually, Mo, my partner, says everything unrevealed, anything that's unrevealed prevents intimacy.
Oh gosh, that's a beautiful...
Right?
Yes.
And
anything unrevealed
prevents intimacy. And this kind of intimate conversation, or any intimate moment, anything that we are afraid to reveal of ourselves, holds us in this invisible shield that is impermeable. You can't be heart. You can't be belly to belly.
I love belly to belly. We have to be belly to belly.
Belly to belly.
But tell that story that you told me on the balcony this morning about how David Data said to you.
Oh,
do tell that, because that's such an important story.
Sure. So, in one of the intensives I did with David Data, first of all, we should say one of the things he picked up on me very, very quickly was that what feels like home in my nervous system, which I would always reorient to, was smooth on top with rumbling underneath.
Yes, that's your family dynamic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're a good girl. You've been trained to be a good girl. Yes.
So one of the first things he said to me, and I think one of my first intensives, was, I bet all of your spiritual practices are perfectly designed to keep everything really peaceful on top.
Yes.
Right? And I looked at the pujas I was doing and the meditation, and he was right. He was completely right. And
to be the best little girl who ever was. Yes.
God, he's right.
Yes.
So then, however many intensives later, one of the practices he gave me was to, in the middle of the teaching, was a small intensive. There were only 6 of us, I believe. And he said, you need to know how much tension you are creating in everybody in this room without even realizing it, because you are afraid to bring your... He didn't use the word fierceness and power, but you are afraid to be disruptive, right? So he said to me, I want you randomly for the next 3 days to bring some kind of massive swear bomb into the middle of the room. And here's me, like I'm a very good student. So I'm thinking, and I said to him, of course, in my innocence, what, while you're teaching, like interrupt you? And he's like, so I went to do it and I actually didn't do a very good job the first time. I was like, he said, I want you to yell, like something that you wouldn't normally say, like swear, so like a swear bomb, and like really, and I really wasn't very good. So then he said to one of the other, would someone give me like your best New York Jewish bitch who can say, where's my fucking coffee, or something like that, right?
Oh God, I met that.
So someone gave me an example. I was like, whoa, I don't, you know. So then I really summoned up and I did it, and the whole room cracked up. And for the next 3 days, anytime I randomly threw this massive rock into the middle of the pond of consciousness in the room, everybody relaxed. And the moment where I did the first one and everyone completely cracked up, and he said, feel the room. Feel the openness you have created here and now, because you're not holding on to the tension of being the, you know, nice, contained, right?
You know why I'm asking you to tell the story? Because I think, and I know we talked a little bit about this, but I think it's so important. I notice how many of the most extraordinary people on the planet now are women. And I always notice, and many of them are my close friends, and this is one of the things that I'm so grateful for in my life, that I have in my life such amazing, passionate, powerful, wild women. But what I notice about all of them is that they're still inhibited by this long patriarchal mutilation and degradation of the feminine. And they still fear that moment when the fullness of their own sacred authority needs to blaze out. And I think it's so wonderful that there are teachers like Carolyn, for example, and like Marianne, who have really claimed the Black Madonna within themselves. And are really socking it to people as it is, as a woman. Because they're modeling to other women, don't play small, don't hide the extraordinary volcanic clarity that you have as a woman, graced by the Black Madonna. Don't hide your inner Tina Turner. Need it, and now more than ever.
Well, I think for I know the women that I work with, there are a couple of things. First of all, there's this, you know, for me it was, I'll get into trouble if I am disruptive, and yet...
Are you kidding? Get into trouble, you might be burnt as a witch, or disemboweled. Or,
that's right. Whereas, you know, once... And let's be very clear, there's a very big difference between being disruptive to get what you want and actually allowing...
justice to speak.
That's right. So, you know, it's the same in intimate relationship. I could yell at my man because he's not giving me what I want, my petty needs.
That's just ego stuff,
Or if my man is out of integrity and I feel the pain of that, if I can express that open heart, belly to belly, eye gaze, and roar, then that wakes him up to truth. And this is the thing.
It's the greatest act of love, isn't it?
Yes, and this is what I've learned most deeply from all of my work with Kadon and Sabrina, who I talk with David Data, and with David's very phenomenal one of his teachers, Michaela Boehm, is to be an expression of that is, of course, always abusive if it's closed,
abusive if it's egocentric.
And if it's egocentric. But if you had someone poisoning a river...
We do have someone, it's called Monsanto. And we have...
And you rise up and you say, no, from that place, that is truth spoken, embodied.
And that's what we need on the world in vast waves. That's the gift of the Black Madonna. The gift of that outraged sacred no. Grounded in the divine yes to life. That's what I'm trying to train people to claim. And it's very hard in this time because the religions have done a huge number on the sacred feminine. The New Age has tamped people down and made them believe that inner peace in the face of the devastation of the world is the only possible reaction, which is an insanity. How do we help people to get to that volcanic knowledge of justice and voice it from a non-egocentric place, from a place non-abusive place, but a real place which shakes people away?
For the sake of love.
Life and love, the same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, even that practice might seem bizarre or extreme, but actually what he was really getting me to do is recognize that I was causing tension in the room simply by not allowing truth and love to move through me through fierceness.
Yes.
I was very good at allowing truth and love to move through me through tenderness.
Yes, you're good at Mary, but not at the Black Madonna. Good at Mary,
but not at Black Madonna.
Right.
And that's 5 years ago now, so a little bit's changed. And it's always that deeper and deeper and deeper embodiment. And that's, I think we've talked the other night about claiming that authority.
Yes. And the beautiful word authority, because it's obviously not the patriarchal.
Well, that's the thing. As
authority.
soon as you say it, for me, as soon as I say the word authority, I'm still wiggling into that as a feeling in my body and an innate power that is creative and destructive only in the most divine way.
Yes.
As opposed to the authority that shuts down.
But in order for that to come through, and you know this better than anybody, because I can see that, is that you really do have to constantly work on your own shadow, on the traumas and karmas, because it's very hard to tell the difference between the neurotic, egocentric outrage and the sacred outrage. You have to do a lot of work. Yeah. And you have to understand how it works in your body, because there's
what your own tendencies are,
and what your own temperament is addicted to.
That's right. And what shadow. I think speaking to shadow work is really, really important.
It's essential.
Because now there are more people on the planet who are doing real shadow work.
I wish that was true. I think a lot of people are doing shadow work, but at a rather superficial level. I think real shadow work, as you know, because David's work is so confronting, and as I know, because the work that I've gone through to do the work I do has been unbelievably confronting. Real shadow work really does require constant dying to your own stupid sacred image of yourself. You've got to face things in yourself which are unbelievably hard to face, impossible to face for the ego. So without a deep divine container, you cannot ever go deep enough into the Philippine trench of your own shadow to be able to really get it. So there's a lot of valuable shadow work going on, but the real shadow work has to be done in, I believe, in terms of a divine transformation. You've got to be grounded in your deep divine self so that you can stand what you have to stand as you go down, down, down into the perversity and depravity and horror of that part of human nature. And face it for what it is, face it for the evil that it is, without damning yourself, realizing that's part of the alchemy, that's her magic also.
You know, that's what I realized when you were talking yesterday about the Madonna and how you so beautifully really invoked the love of
Mary.
Yeah, the love of Mary, and allowed everyone to really feel that love enough so that for the short period of time, the 5 hours that we're all together, that they could trust it enough to then face
yes.
the Black Madonna.
Yes, and that's the real way shadow work, I believe, should be done. You always need to feel supported and sustained, because what you're going to really discover is going to blow your ego apart. You will never be the same person once you've been down that trench. And that's why the shadow work that's been done a lot, and it's become rather a buzzword, is not going nearly far enough, because if it was, it would be galvanizing people to radical sacred action on a major level, because once you discover what's really inside you, you see it operating in the world, and you know that it's incredibly dangerous in you, so it's incredibly dangerous out there, so you need to start working from a sacred consciousness to really heal the deep separations and violence and cruelty that's in the fantasy of dominating nature and the fantasy of dominating the whole world, that's fueling this corporate madness that we're in. The connections become clear, and also the skill to deal with the shadow becomes clearer as you go forward.
And isn't it true that it's so easy to look outward and say, oh,
them, right.
They're ravaging the earth,
right.
But when you start to recognize all the ways that we rape and pillage our own feminine,
our own bodies,
and
how scared we are of our bodies, and how scared we are of death, and how much we are addicted to lust of power. But there is a danger, and that when you discover that so they are you and you are they, that you excuse them. And so much shadow work in the New Age, very, very superficial shadow work, says, well, they're all lovely people, and we're all in this together, so let's just and shmo. Right. That's not the truth. The real truth I'm finding is that when you get down and really resonate with the darkness and craziness of yourself, you also resonate by how dangerous it is. How lethal it is to others and how lethal it is to the world. So seeing it in the corporate leaders, in the politicians, you don't damn them because you know you are them, but you also know, and this is so important, these distinctions are so important, you also know how dangerous they are, because they aren't yet conscious of what is living inside them and doing them. So then you have to have a relationship inside yourself with those forces, which on the one hand is deeply compassionate because you know the pain that it's coming from, the trauma, the greed or whatever, but also very resolved to heal it and to stand up against it peacefully when you must. Otherwise those forces will devastate the planet and kill the whole earth. There's a terrible sentimentality and a fake unconditional love out there. A real unconditional love has Mary's tenderness and the Black Madonna's clarity and fierceness. And if you only have the tenderness, you're a lamb led to slaughter. And if you only have the ferocity, you'll so alienate people that they'll never ever listen to you. But when you have both, like His Holiness has both, the great masters and the great Jane Goodall has both, then you have the chance to really move the heart of the world. And that is so hard to acquire, isn't it? You have to go through hell to get it, actually.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, her hell, which is heaven.
That's right.
Right.
How do you then, when someone knows that they want to look at what's really within, when they want to do the real work,
oh, yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel incredibly blessed because, maybe I'm answering my own question, because I think when you really make the decision to do the real work, then the right people come into your life as you have come into mine, and mine into you, me into yours, and all the people, and as we talked about yesterday, opening the books to the right pages, So I was going to ask you, for someone who says, I'm ready, I'm ready to do the work, I get that I am equally messy as I am beautiful, I am equally dark as I am light,
yes,
right? Then what?
I would say three things. I would say this is probably the most holy moment in your life, because you're going to find out who you really are, what the world is really going through, and what really has to be done. So take very deep breaths and say it 3 times, because you really need to commit yourself now. Do not waste this moment. And plunge into divine practice by whatever way you experience it, because you're going to need adamantine calm and peace and non-judgmental spaciousness to be able to face what you're going to have to face about yourself and about everything. Second thing I would say is deepen your friendships. Really risk vulnerability in your friendships, opening up areas that you may not have opened up, even to your closest friends or your partners, and go quietly. Don't rush into it, because this is a very delicate process. And ask your friends when the time is right, what have you been experiencing that has deranged you about me? And if you ask that in a way that is truly loving, you'll find you'll get the most shattering information from your friends, because all of our friends know our shadows. It's just that they've not been given an opportunity by us very often to actually be absolutely honest. And if you ask a very close friend, not just to tell you what pisses you off in me, but give me an example. Give me an example when I was a diva. Give me an example when I overrode you. Give me an example when I sabotaged something that you said out of my own
when I didn't
nonsense,
listen,
when I
or
didn't
I
listen.
wasn't.
Yes. Give me an example. And then the friend will always have 10 or 11 of examples, and they'll be able to help you with that. And the third thing, I think, is to be very, very clear about when you get deeply uncomfortable with someone, and when you really want to vent rage at someone and outrage at someone, because those moments are always connected to your own shadow. You're always raging at something blown up of something in you. We always dislike the most the people who show us that our own shadow exaggerated. So if you have those 3 indications, you're really, I think, on the good path, I think.
I have a very dear friend, Louis, who says, we're only ever speaking to ourselves.
Yes. Well, what a joy to be speaking to yourself. It's like the Dalai Lama who says, I'm always meeting people for the 2nd or 3rd time, even when he's because all of these incarnations. But because he's in intimacy with reality. And because there's only one person. Different faces.
So.
This has been lovely, darling.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
To bring our
May your series of great
conversations,
wise teachers and everyday lovers flourish. It's a wonderful form. I think we need so much more of this sacred conversation. It's really the way in which everything gets shared and everything changes. I feel different.
Thank you for being my first intimate conversation with great mystics, wise teachers, and everyday lovers.
My pleasure, my honor. God bless you. God bless you.